Welcome back to the Harvard Podcast. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy. We got Boston Flasher, we got Scott Keith, and we got our special host, our special guest, Robbie from Patrician Film Boasting. What's up, Robbie?
How the hell are you? I'm doing okay. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Okay, so we've been asking people to come on and talk about the film of their choice. Robbie chose American Splendor from 2003, starring Paul Giamatti. Why did you
Say
choose this film,
young.
Robbie? Yeah,
Why did I choose this one? Because this is
yeah.
one of my favorite movies ever. I mean, I love this film. I've loved it since the first time I watched it. The moment I watched it, earlier today, I loved it. It's a great film. I think it's like one of those movies that kind of defines you when it hits you in the right way if you're a certain type of person. I admit, it's probably a film that endures to me as like a shitty white guy, but but like basically like I don't know, I feel a lot of this, like I work a shitty job, I wonder what if I'm gonna keep, living a life that never feels like it goes anywhere. When I discovered this as a teenager, I mean, of course, I felt way different about it then. I liked it because it had all these historical things having to do with the history of underground comics. Harvey Pekar is such a incredible figure, and this was my discovery into Harvey Pekar. I had the Crumb film, the documentary by Terry Zwigoff, and yeah, it's just such a great film. I can't talk good enough about it. Hey, thank you for having me on. Let me do
Yeah,
this.
man.
Yeah, for
This
sure.
is,
And so I'm guessing you're a big comics fan and comics with an X, right?
Yeah. I also enjoy the superhero comics that get bashed real heavily in this movie as well, but I don't like them near as much as I like, weird underground shit. Um,
It's not as good. My exposure to comics is limited. Casher, how big are you into? Because I didn't know Harvey Pekar into this. It actually took me a minute to realize this was kind of like a documentary.
Yeah, I have never read Harvey Pekar. I honestly didn't know who the fuck he was when I started this. So it was interesting to see kind of the evolution of what underground, because it's kind of like talks about the beginning of underground comics and stuff too, which is really cool. Um, so it was very interesting to see like the process and like who this motherfucker was, because I do remember seeing the David Letterman
oh, nice.
before I saw this. So I knew who he was. So like I was really interested in seeing how they would portray him and how Paul Giamatti would come in, because those Letterman shorts or the Letterman spots are super cringy and some of my favorite Letterman.
Can we just go over this like real quick? I fucking love the Letterman bits, like
yeah,
Oh,
the
so
way.
some of
good.
my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Yeah,
Oh
for
man,
sure.
yeah,
And we'll get there.
the way they weave it in, like with the actual footage, is just
Yeah,
incredible. Like it could sum up the whole movie if you really think about it.
Oh,
that's
Yeah.
what I was
absolutely.
thinking because that's like why I like the movie so much is that it almost like borderlines on documentary in a
Yeah,
way.
and the directors were documentarians before this and after
Yeah,
this. This is their first narrative film. I mean,
really
So
cool way to
what's
weave it
kind of
in.
funny about those David Letterman spots, I'm reading here. So they say that there's two spots in the movie, but he actually did it four times, and the other
Yeah.
two were so disastrous that David Letterman wouldn't let those be on the movie.
Oh
yeah,
wow.
no,
Oh
NBC or
wow.
whoever. But they let him on after he did the protest thing. I
Oh.
think. I
Okay. Yeah. The
think if I read it
It's like
correctly earlier on
93 and
Wikipedia.
94 were his last appearances.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So
that
God
was
10
damn.
around.
years before the
That was
movie.
around the time he had cancer. Was like '93, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Answer
yeah, that's
year.
interesting.
I
No,
Yeah.
uh
but
I
go
kind of
ahead.
miss Letterman in a certain way. Like I
Yeah.
know he's a fucking creep ass, I get it. I read,
No, I
okay,
like
guys.
him.
But I always liked, like the atmosphere of his show. Him and Conan and fucking what's the Scottish guy? I can never remember his fucking name.
Craig
Craig
Ferguson.
Ferguson. Yeah, okay. Yeah, like they just had a spirit of anarchy to their shows. Like
Oh,
I just never.
Letterman was full about anarchy, man. He was
The
his
early Letterman, oh, that's just some of the
it's the
best late
shit.
night comedy ever. Damn.
Yeah.
I love when Letterman just has open contempt for his guests. That's the best thing about Letterman when
Well,
he's
yeah,
just
because
like,
he's like Joyce points out in the film, he's a fucking megalomaniac, and that's how he
yeah,
thrives is when he has somebody he can punch down on hard.
yeah, all those guys. Uh,
Yeah,
First
go
of
ahead.
all, Paul Giamatti, I liked his performance. It's not often you have a raspy protagonist, and it just worked really well.
Made me feel good.
kind of almost
I,
biopic, I guess. About
Yeah. Oh shit, Scott, you're cutting out.
somebody
No, you're
lagging
good.
out.
No, you're okay. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah,
You're good.
Is it
yeah.
me?
I love Paul. Paul, he's one of my heroes in cinema because he just seems to be a chameleon while always just being Paul Giamatti. Like it never is not Paul Giamatti. I mean, that look, and the fact that he blends into the Harvey Pekar character to where over the years, like I've thought of Paul Giamatti and then realized like, no, I should actually be thinking of Harvey Pekar.
Yeah, that's fair. And like, yeah, he does it so well, and it's so interesting the way he like talks to people, and they still want to talk to him back because like,
it's surprising.
yeah, and like the fact that he got that. What's the woman's name that he marries?
Joyce.
Yeah, the
Joyce.
fact that Joyce and him get together is insane because like you bring if I brought someone home to that apartment for the first time and be like, oh yeah, I called you to come here to my town and this place is trashed, but
I didn't
that's
want
just
to
how I
clean
am.
because I didn't want to force any
Yeah,
idea about
yeah,
myself.
yeah. He doesn't just say, oh sorry, I was so busy I forgot to do this. He just says, no, this is how I am. I was like, man, you have to respect that, I guess. That's
But
pretty
you have
cool.
to respect that. And I think
Look.
this movie very cleverly, it not with all the characters. So all the characters are kind of heightened because this is it's a comic book movie at
Yeah,
the end of the
right.
day. And these are superhero
and
figures.
they accurately like portray how he'll fuck with reality simply because he's a person who writes by his mood.
Yeah.
Joyce is like, look, this was a good thing. We had a good time. What's the problem here? Well, I don't know. I'm moody. I'm just
Yeah.
gloomy. Like that's just who I am. I'm just a gloomy guy. I'm just a gloomy guy.
And it's true. And there is a lot to be said about that. And certainly of his generation. A
yeah.
guy who romanticizes depression and moodiness.
Yeah.
Which and he does get a comparison to Hemingway, but he says I don't do that macho bullshit. So it's like
I love that too. I love the idea of these generations before us that seem so toxic and intense, and but at the same time they are thinking of themselves like, no, I'm not that macho guy. I'm not this fucking masculine stereotype,
no.
and in a way they're not like, but they've become a masculine stereotype through their media that they portrayed themselves in.
Right. And I wonder how that's going to affect, since there's not a monoculture like there used to be. I wonder how that's going to affect future masculine feminine stereotypes.
I wholeheartedly expect no one to care about my art. I just think my art is just me being like some shitty white dude and kind of looking at the fucking world around him and trying to make sense of it. Like I got this one album I've
But
been
that's
working
life,
on.
man.
Yeah,
that's what this movie celebrates. But tell us
yeah.
about your art. What art are you
Well,
making? You said an album?
like I got this album I've been working on for a long while called Live Martian Girls. I've been a it's no public secret that I'm a Ralph Bakshi fan. I've been a Ralph Bakshi
Yeah.
fan for a long time. I'm kind of cooled down now on his works after reading this big BuzzFeed article that basically they allege that he was a little handsy with some of his
Yeah, but
employees.
that's half of the people we
Yeah, I know, and
growing
like,
up.
but at the same time, I just need to get my head out of this guy's head. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Okay.
Like,
Separate the art and artist, all that.
hey, people can dig a Ralph Bakshi movie from now on. I'm not gonna scorn him or make him feel bad. I hope they have a good time with it. Hey, the Ralph Bakshi filmography, it helped make me the man I am today.
Yeah, I'm
I
hoping to
don't-
talk about some on here soon. Cause
Oh,
yeah.
we can soon. That'll
Yeah.
flow,
yeah, because
one of
they
these.
they talk about because the guy who wrote Fritz the Cat is in this movie.
Yeah, Robert Crumb, and they like I don't know how much of a history he actually has with Harvey Pekar because Harvey Pekar seems kind of like cut off from his celebrity life. You know
Well,
what I'm saying?
and they actually portrayed that really interestingly in the movie. There were a lot of interesting directorial decisions and performance
Yeah.
decisions in this movie. And one thing is with Robert Crumb's character is he was very distant, even from a performance perspective. He's always reading something or drawing
Yeah.
something.
The
He
amazing
never looks
James-
anybody in
yeah.
the eye. He always has that stupid, pretentious 1920s Bioshock Infinite steampunk hat on.
Fucking James
and-
Urbaniak is such an amazing like portrayal of Robert Crumb though. He's just this ball of energy that is spewing out onto the drawing page every time you see him. Like he doesn't connect with people, but he does connect on a page.
Right. But he's
Right.
almost he's this mythic figure. He's a superhero, in this movie.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
is.
Yeah, it does get a little silly, like, because they probably should have shown, like, the women that weren't charmed by him, the women that didn't want to be, like,
No,
harassed
but-
by him. Like,
No, Robert Crumb had that problem, and it's where a lot of his libertine sexuality and that sort of free, he's kind of connected to that movement in the 60s.
yeah.
And his portrayal of sexuality in his comics, and in
However-
in hindsight, some of that is problematic, but it is not Robert Crumb's movie at the end of the day.
No, it's not. How do you guys feel about the portrayal of the co-opting of nerd culture, like from the late 70s into the like early 90s? Because I think it's such a fascinating thing to look at the way they show how mainstream America through MTV and all these different
Yeah.
services was trying to get on this bandwagon because they
Yeah.
saw that it could be a thing. Like this guy was making a name. He went on Letterman and was telling Letterman off, on his own show. This nobody went on David Letterman, one of the biggest talk shows to ever, run.
You gotta
and he-
respect that. What's
Yeah,
the name
man.
of his colleague, the nerd guy?
Toby.
Toby.
Yeah,
Toby.
Toby
That guy.
Randall. Man,
I
that's
really love
Judah
that guy.
Friedlander.
Judah
if you guys didn't
Friedlander,
know.
amazing.
What the fuck? I'd never seen him in anything besides like, being the trucker hat with the long
Yes.
hair and shit.
Yeah.
That tripped me out so hard.
It took me because I recognized the name and I couldn't place it. And he's writer on 30 Rock, actor
Yeah.
in 30 Rock. He also has a Netflix special that I still need to watch. But
Same here.
at first I thought whoever's playing this Toby guy is really hamming it up.
That's
and
what
then
I was thinking.
and then they showed the footage of
Yeah.
Toby. And I'm like, oh no, this is
Oh yeah, no,
100%
this
accurate.
is spot on. It's fine.
Dude,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
I had the same thing. Like when I first saw this movie at like 16 or 17, I was like, what is going on with this actor? Why would they let an actor do this? And then I see the guy, I'm like, oh, well, all right then.
That's
You know who
him.
he reminded me of? You know
That's
who he
how it
reminded me
works.
of?
Who?
And I want to do a cast on this movie too, but he reminded me of Mike Shank from American Movie.
Oh,
And
Which
yeah,
one is
totally.
Mike? The short,
dude.
tall one or fat one?
the fat one.
Fat one.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the fat one. Yeah.
Like a less drugged out.
Yeah,
Mike
well, it's
Shank.
just like with that, like I don't know. Yeah,
the
and-
cadence and the
him, him-
elocution, the very like punctuated pronunciation.
and
know?
him selling out to MTV was interesting because
It was funny as fuck.
is the opposite of what the protagonist was all about, and seeing the actual footage of that, I was like, dude, they're trying to appropriate this shit so hard. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that was a thing.
Yeah. It's probably one of my favorite things in the whole movie when they go see Revenge of the Nerds and
Yeah.
they get out and Harvey is like, that was bullshit. Like those people don't represent you, Toby. Those are fucking college kids who are gonna go back after they get done and they're gonna grow up and they're gonna stop being nerds. And that's what fucking happened. That's what fucking happened in the 90s. All these fucking nerds in the 80s, they made all this goddamn money and then they got to the 90s and they sold the fuck out. And they were happy about it. They had hot wives and they were fucking happy about it. And they didn't care about their nerd culture shit anymore. And when they did care about their nerd culture shit, they co-opted on it. They fucking capitalized it. I'm not a little nerd anymore, but I can help out these little nerds. I'm fucking Mike Laszlo. Yuck, yuck.
And then,
Sorry
Capitalism
to
for
go
nerds.
on a rant there, but I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just
No, but that's a central theme of the movie, and I think it's very I think especially watching it now when what so-called nerd culture has become and how mainstream it's been, the biggest movies are about blue people and Avengers Endgame. out this window on this bus interchange down a few floors from me, I see giant wall-to-wall murals of a Harry Potter movie. We have dudes with wands, and fireballs coming out of it, and that's just a normal thing. Secrets of Dumbledore,
Yeah.
8th of April, only in
well,
cinema.
okay, well, we're not sponsored by Secrets of Dumbledore.
No, I know we're not. I know
We
we're
would
not.
like to be.
I know that was right, but I'm just
I hope
saying.
not.
I know.
I'm saying. I mean,
I'm
I
leaving
don't know.
now, so
I'll take that. I know that it sounded weird. I was just reading it. Well, I started to read it, but then I
No,
started to
you're
realize
right,
there's,
No, yeah, it was-
there's
I mean-
nothing. There's nothing interesting to read because it's literally just a title and a date. It's not going to be like
Starring Eddie Redmayne. and
starring Eddie
Jude
Redmayne
Law.
and Jude Law, which you thought I said Jude Law, and I said Jude Law. But I don't know. My whole point is the mainstreaming of nerd culture, especially
Yeah.
superhero movies, which we can maybe get into later. But really, I remember I took a comics class in college, and I always had a respect for comics. I'm not a huge comic reader, but that's honestly one of maybe the best class I've ever taken. And because we read a lot of underground, like independent comics, which are so much more interesting and play with the form so much, because that's something you don't realize. Like and that's what's interesting to me. I think the graphic novels are one of the best things.
damn straight.
Possibly the best medium to do a memoir is.
There's a fucking reason Japanese comics sell out American comics tenfold. You can get like 10 chapters of a comic book in one little graphic novel,
Yeah. No, we color them. We spend too much time. We pay those colorists. whatever. That's what we shouldn't
You
do.
think you're
We should
so
just have
fancy.
one Japanese man chain smoking in his studio apartment, drawing for his life.
That's
Chained
the
to
Miyazaki
whatever.
special, my friend.
yeah.
For real.
He has a new movie he's making, and he's so like fucking old and like has such a hard time drawing. He can maybe do like a minute of animation if he's feeling good, and he plans on hand animating this whole film like to completion before it's even like edited
dude.
or colored or anything like that. It will be in pencil.
Dude, can you imagine getting micromanaged by Miyazaki and how frustrating that would be?
No.
Like he's a genius, but he's got to be a terrible boss.
No,
Yes,
everyone
I feel
talks
like
about
he-
what a terrible boss he is. The guy who like mentored him, Isao Takahata, he fucking was like, yeah, when he got a job over me, immediately he was like, no, you're doing this wrong. I fucking taught you how to make anime, you little bitch. That's what Isao Takahata was basically
Yeah.
like,
Dude, that's like it's like an edible thing. like you want to kill your father almost. That's like
I
your
concur.
father gets in a wheelchair and you just like push him down a bunch of stairs. Just like, how do you
No,
feel?
I thought you said edible, and I was like, "What fucking edibles are you eating?"
Yeah,
I
good
got
one.
really fucking confused.
No, he's talking
An
about, like,
edible compliment. You
Yeah,
you
it's
never
like-
you never eat a pot brownie and want to
You're
kill
not
your
a fucking
father.
Jim
Oh,
Morrison
man.
fan. Come on. You know what
Oh, dude,
edible is.
Or, for another version of that, you could talk about Darth Plagueis the Rise from Star Wars Episode 3.
Yeah,
Revenge
Miyazaki
well-
and Darth Sidious are the same guy.
Here's,
No,
a,
but,
here's a weird thing I want to kind of point out about this movie. No Star Wars culture in it at all. Star Wars is not a thing that ever appears, and it's just funny to me because with the rise of Harvey Pekar, concurrently Star Wars is also rising. I think he published his first book in '79.
Yeah.
The first Star Wars movie is '77. Empire Strikes Back comes out in '82,
but-
right? Yeah.
80. But this is a
80,
guy
okay, not
who
fucking
doesn't
bad.
give a shit about Star Wars.
I'm aware of that, but I also wish there was like some kind of rant being like, I fucking hate space movies. They don't mean anything to the public. Like, why doesn't he hate science fiction as much as he hates superheroes?
I get it, and we see him reading a lot, but he talks about reading naturalist stories, so he's clearly into that and not
Yeah, it's
liking.
super fun at parties.
But it would just be unnecessary. I thought about that too because we always mention freaking Star Wars on this cast, but no, I thought about that too because I was thinking like this is when Star Wars and that type of nerd culture really entered the mainstream.
Yeah.
Which that's another example. You meet people who are Like, I'm a nerd. I like Star Wars. I'm like, you watch The Empire Strikes Back, but I don't know. What is being a nerd? I almost think it's an outdated concept.
I mean,
You know?
when
Yeah.
And
I
I
was
think it's
like,
largely invented by Hollywood, by John Hughes and Revenge of the Nerds.
Well, now
I
being a
feel like
nerd-
my type of nerd when I was growing up was invented by this guy that we're talking about
Yeah.
today because I took after him, like people like him and Crumb, so heartily. Like when I was in high school, I didn't listen to any rap or hip hop. I was listening to fucking blues and fucking avant-garde jazz.
Okay.
Captain Beefheart was like my man in high school
Yeah,
because
Beefheart.
Yeah,
there was
yeah,
no
yeah,
other
we all
fucking
went through
music I
that phase.
enjoyed near as much because he was like every bit of music I liked, from avant-garde jazz to Delta blues to garage rock, was just thrown into one big fucking weird package. And
Yeah, and
so,
that's
yeah.
why I, at some points you do identify with this guy because you've had phases in your life. You're like, yeah, I listened to Trout Mask Replica.
Yeah.
Like,
Actually,
fuck you.
sir, I prefer lick my decals off.
But he's like in his
It's a
40s.
more
so it's,
focused.
Yeah, that's the
different.
thing. It's perpetual adolescence.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
Which being an artist can be selfish, and the
Oh,
self mythology can do that. You look at somebody like Kerouac, who self mythologized, and he didn't raise his daughter. That didn't happen. That wasn't
Right.
something that it was priority. He just wanted to hang out and do benzos with Ginsberg, an actual
Yeah.
talented person.
Yeah, I loved him in high
Um,
school too. He was a buddy of mine.
Who? Jack Kerouac?
Yeah,
Or
a book
Ginsberg?
buddy of mine.
Nah,
Carried him
nah,
around.
nah, Jack.
Yeah, but
But do you listen to hip hop now, Robbie?
Oh yeah, I don't listen to that much though. I'm still a white.
That's
asshole.
fine. But we've matured.
no, but damn, what was I gonna say? Well, yeah, and part about making your own life into fiction. It goes on about how he has this dead end job. He could have tried to find other jobs, but he didn't want to because that's who he is.
I think one of my favorite things about him, like like making a myth out of himself, is that he always consistently calls himself a nice guy. Like,
That's
I'm a nice guy. Come on.
That's a right.
Oh
nice
man,
guy.
that was the biggest lie I ever learned from this movie. Oh my god. Oh my god. What this motherfucker.
I'm a nice guy. By the way, I have a vasectomy.
Yeah,
I'm a nice guy, and the only thing you're gonna listen to in my fucking car is Captain Beefheart.
Yeah. Now we were talking about nerds and how it might be an outdated term because that's what's popular now. So now
Yeah.
we've adopted a new term for loser weirdos, and it's called incel or neckbeard, and that doesn't really
I
account
thought
to
that was
any
only for
certain.
like.
You don't have to be into comic books or science fiction to be an incel. So it's kind of changed. It's directly attacking the person's character.
Right, which is better because
Yeah.
who cares what your interests are, but if you're
Right.
if you're a big football fan, NFL fan, that's a nerd of a type, and if you're an incel NFL fan, you're still an incel. It doesn't matter.
I've had
no,
people
I-
call me an incel for enjoying like American Splendor and fucking moody white guy bullshit like this.
This is a critically acclaimed film. I'm surprised at how critically well. It's just this has like I know this isn't everything. It has. This is probably a very selected. I can understand why critics really like this, especially in 2003. I think it was really cool.
Oh, they were
fresh,
creaming their
2003.
pants in 2003 over
Yeah,
this.
dude,
my
and
friend.
and Paul Giamatti. He had next year he had Sideways. That was a couple
Oh,
of
yeah,
good years for
fucking A.
Paul Giamatti. Sideways is great too. Dude, Paul
Also,
Giamatti.
This
Yeah.
does something that
MVP.
movies don't really do, where they have the narrator. Narrators can be self-aware, but this narrator is borderline documentary. Like,
Yeah,
it's a very unique style of like filmmaking,
Right.
going back and forth, like having the actual Harvey Pekar there to kind of narrate the scenes that are happening. I just like how he's like, yeah, this is the guy that plays me. He doesn't look anything like me.
yeah.
It shines through.
looks close enough.
it's one thing
Close
to hear him,
enough.
but then we see him, and it's cleverly done in like a space between spaces, kind
Right.
of like nether between the movie and the real life.
He's the little narration box on the comic panel throughout the frames of this movie.
yeah.
That's what it is.
But you even
Yeah.
see Paul Giamatti in the background at one point when they're focusing on him. I'm like,
Yeah, he's
wow.
like, he's at craft services.
Yeah.
They're eating jelly beans.
That's
How
interesting.
do you know which one's cherry and which one's cinnamon? Well, I have to put it in my mouth first.
And that
Oh,
feels like
that's
such a
impressive.
genuine interaction between those two. So when it
Yeah.
goes back to the movie, it just feels so authentic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not ostentatious. What I mean, the movie isn't calling it doesn't feel like it's calling attention to how clever it's being.
Yeah.
You know, it does it sheerly for the effect of calling attention to this man and his own autobiographical style. You know, it's calling, it feels like the movie calling attention to Harvey and not calling attention to itself. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, because that could easily go wrong. You know, I could see like a student film being trying to like do something like that, and it just being a wink.
Yeah. And this was HBO like original.
Yeah,
film?
I'm reading here, dude. This got nominated for an Oscar, which I mean the Oscars
Really?
are a shit show, but in 2003 they weren't.
Oh,
Nominated
no,
for
no.
Best Adapted Screenplay. It got an
Cool.
AFI award.
Yeah, it won Best Film AFI that year, I think.
Yeah,
right?
so it's pretty cool.
And it won a lot of
It
stuff.
was recognized pretty
Yeah, cool
Yeah.
for
quickly.
an indie movie like that. Ish.
For a guy who complains as much as Harvey Pekar does, I just when I think about this film and I think about his nature, it just makes me think like, man, this guy doesn't understand how much he's gotten just for who he is. It's a miracle
Yeah.
sometimes, when you think about I mean, his sales may not have been incredible, but they were good enough that he kept getting books made. And
Sure.
if I could ever get a comic book published and then people kept wanting to publish my comic books, I'd feel like off my fucking rocker.
Yeah, but would you? Because I always feel, and I guess I recognize this part of myself in him, is that I think achieving a goal will make me happy, and it just doesn't. The goalpost always moves a step forward. So I think it's interesting that, I mean, he obviously could have sold out and made other comics and didn't. And who knows how much money he made off of his comics. There's no money in comics anyway.
No.
But even if it's a bestseller, it's like whatever.
The only reason Crumb ever made money the way he did was because he had Fritz the Cat #1 come out, which he should be thankful for. No matter how bad he feels about that film, I don't care. He should be thankful for that fucking thing because that thing helped make him such an American voice, like on the big screen, that he's going to live forever in a certain way because that film will always have a place in history, despite whatever fucked up shit might go along with it.
Yeah.
It's
But if you watch Fritz the Cat, it's not hard to imagine that the people behind it might be a little, greasy.
I've been given a lot of leeway to some people who I guess maybe because of their media portrayals, I'm not taking at face value the way I should. Like, the thing I like about this movie the most is that at least because it has so much involvement from his family as well, you get to see these sides where Harvey just breaks down and does the wrong fucking thing to the wrong fucking thing you should do to your friend or your family, especially when they're so closely tied to who you are as a person, the support system you have, whatever that is as a human being. When he breaks down on Joyce in that restaurant, and it's just such a intense scene. It's a miracle something like that can survive in a marriage. When I look at it, it's a miracle.
it's a miracle that their marriage survived at all.
Yeah,
they got married. They got
God.
engaged after like 3 days.
God damn,
Yeah.
dude. Like, every girlfriend I've ever had, if I acted this way, they would have been fucking gone in a heartbeat. Like, Jesus, I can't imagine being a human being and acting this way all the time and still
Right.
having people that continually love you.
Such like a very specific person like Joyce that it
Yeah.
works because he's such a it's so weird. I love it though. And she doesn't
mean,
want to
look-
work or do anything.
Look, I'm definitely not above my own fucking faults as a human being. I want to put that out right there. I'm not putting myself above Harvey Pekar. I'm just saying, like, geez, I'm glad my anger hasn't manifested in certain ways like that, towards my lovers or whatever in my life.
Harvey might be more of an average American than he thinks.
I think so too.
In
Yeah.
the grand scheme of everything.
I mean,
And that's
his
why people
range
like
is
this movie
pretty
so
narrow
much.
in a certain way if you think
Well,
about
yeah.
it. You know, he's narrow in a different way than other Americans, but he's still narrow.
Yeah, and it's like you can identify with some things with him, but also a lot of people have probably met someone or have a friend that is very similar to this guy.
Yeah.
You know. So of course I can see why people really liked him.
We all have some of that in here. I get accused of being a curmudgeon or having a temper, not to this guy, but you guys know.
I bet after this I'll be accused of having a temper. That's okay. I enjoyed my Mike Laszlo dig.
The
He deserves it.
I liked yeah.
I definitely think I'm gonna go back and read quite a bit of American Splendor just to see
awesome
what's going on, because super interesting. It that it sold as well as it did, and that he became such a iconic person in that scene that I have to at this point at least read a little bit.
Yeah, talk about being ahead of the curve, because think about the silver age of comics and stuff, and going against the grain of
freaking Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was some peak Spider-Man times right there. God damn.
Spider-Man was popping. I think it's interesting his wife is called Joyce because Harvey reminds me of a character from James Joyce, an author I've never read.
Yeah,
but
I'm glad you didn't pretend to.
No, definitely not.
I've seen that Finnegan's Wake movie, and that's a trip.
I read like one page on the Amazon preview. I was like, I'm not doing this. He's just making up words wholesale. It's like not even clever. I mean, I guess kind of cleverly if you speak like Hebrew and French and English, but
that's the kind of language like you put down when you can't draw. I think a lot of people who make these very naughty, wordy things, it's because they can't draw and they can't show what they're seeing in their fucking head. So
right, it's a different thing. Well, I find it interesting that did he ever try to learn to draw? Did he ever make an attempt, or was he just I'm doing this?
I think.
By the way, have any of you guys in that comics class? And that's basically what I did. We had to do daily comics, and I just drew like stick people 90% of the time, or like because I can't really draw a little writing background. But have any of y'all tried to make comics a lot?
I've tried to make animation for the past few years, and I've pulled so much of my fucking hair out. Oh my god, dude!
It's so hard. Animation's a whole nother beast.
Oh, it is. I mean,
but like comic, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard,
and you have to write and do the layout at the same time. It's like when he was saying Joyce. She uses too many words in the panels, blah, blah, blah.
Damn straight. Oh, man. Awesome point. That's one of my favorite parts of the film when he like just openly acknowledges it, that he chooses his words very specifically to present them within the bubble. That represents like a level of comic book writer, like mastership that many people don't take advantage of.
Many people don't recognize. I think like casual readers of comics, that don't recognize how important that is, or how important, like, to the flow of the story and everything. And it is an interesting moment because he's being a jerk and he's fulfilling Joyce's fears of him being controlling. And he's also probably 100% right.
That's fair.
Yeah, I definitely know the feeling of women in my life hating me when I'm 100% right while also being a fucking asshole. God bless every one of them that has ever talked to me. God bless.
I drew some comics in middle school and passed them around to my friends. But I always had the problem where like the first like 4 or 5 panels would be pretty well drawn, and then the last few would be fucking shitty because I'd be like trying to get it out.
Right. It'd be like the last lines of an essay that's due the next day, and you're like, and then that's my essay.
I would one of them, my most popular, I guess, at Bob Courtway Middle School was called The Adventures of Chuck Norris and his sidekick Lucky Pierre. But here's the catch. There was just some random guy who happened to be named Chuck Norris. It wasn't actually Chuck Norris. And so he would he would go around and acting like a badass, thinking he's cool because his name was Chuck Norris, and they're like, well, "This isn't the actual Chuck Norris." But then, and he has his roommate who's gay called Lucky Pierre, and
Like that you pick a French name for him being gay.
Oh my god, I hate myself right now.
well, that's a joke in itself. But then I jumped the shark because in the next comic, he like actually gains powers and he has like all these beard attacks he can do, like this really long beard. I was like, well,
You jumped in. It's like a shonen anime.
it's
You
like
went
a-
to-
that is beautiful.
This
well,
is
that's
seventh
very
grade.
meta.
I
That's
wonder
very
if I-
meta.
Yeah.
I wonder if I
And
could find him
Adrian,
anywhere.
And Adrian, did you connect to Harvey in any way about how he
Yes.
self-inserts in his autobiographical and his art?
Because if anyone watches the Mooring Line, Moonman, Summit of Saturn, and the upcoming Patrician's Guide to Kino film, all of it is just my life reflections, not reflections, parallels, and in a weird, funky,
Yeah.
greasy, fictionalized way. Because
You are a greasy filmmaker, my friend.
thank you. So yeah, I heavily identified with that because that's all I do. And sure, I'm ready. I've made a few films that aren't related to our lives or anything like that, but it's easy to play on that kind of shit, especially when you have zero budget and you just want to fuck
Yeah, I was about to say when you have no budget or trained actors.
around. So yeah, I have
And,
plenty of
it's
Like
experience with that.
what characters can you play, Scott? I can play me, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, we can play
Yeah.
some goofy fucking characters, but
No, for sure.
also
I'm gonna
just
break your
like,
balls.
whatever.
Yeah, I try to work on impressions at work because I think the best way to find your voice is to try to figure out what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
You know,
You
I've
mean
been working
vocal
on a Peter
impressions?
Griffin voice for a
Okay.
while. It's really bad. Like,
Holy crap, Lois. No, but yeah, I when I'm by
Fucking
myself, I
sweet.
do different voices and characters to see if there's anything I could do. Like some of them are problematic, but that's why you don't tell anybody. I don't know what to think anymore, man. Stuff like that.
Cheech Marin.
Yeah.
well, I
Um,
mean, he's a good target for anyone to hit at. So you feel.
What
free
what
to-
did Cheech do? Cheech is cool, isn't
No,
he?
it's-
I mean, he's
No, it's
he's
just like-
cool like a shitty uncle is cool.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
Not in real
Yeah.
life very much.
I'm an
He
uncle.
probably isn't a good influence, but I mean, he's cool. He drives a nice car.
Yeah.
He has a hot girl around him sometimes.
There you go. That's something to look up to.
Yeah, man.
Around these parts.
Hollywood would have you believe that.
You gotta learn the lines of him selling pussy from Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I don't even remember any of that. I haven't seen that thing in so long.
It's one of my favorite like Cheech Marin bits. Is him just like standing outside of a strip club talking about all the different types of pussy. he has. It's so fucking funny. We got chicken pussy if you like that.
What?
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
Cheech Marin has never been the thing that stuck with me about From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh,
I don't
that's
think
not
I have
fair.
to say what that is. We all know what that is.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen that movie.
Oh, okay.
What?
I know.
You know the twist or no?
No, I don't.
Okay, well then no one say anything.
Okay.
No, you need to
That's
be
you
surprised
gotta
as
see that
everyone
movie.
was when they were 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
There's
I thought you were gonna
definitely
say
some
your
gaps to
favorite
my
part
knowledge.
was Tarantino sucking feet in the movie, which he does.
Yeah.
But
No, that was
Wait,
certainly
wait.
Tarantino's favorite part.
Wait. When did Tarantino start liking feet?
He's always
Okay.
probably since he was fucking
assuming
12
probably
years
in
old, I don't know.
childhood.
Let's ask
Yeah.
him. Let's bring him on the
Okay.
cast and ask
It's
him.
actually
When
a
did you
neurological
guys-
thing.
When did you guys forget how to detect sarcasm?
Well, I'm autistic.
We're doing a bit. We're playing along.
When did you guys start doing a bit? When did you guys start?
I've
My
been
whole life is a
doing
bit.
this since I was 12 years old. So yeah. Some
When did
people
you
just
start
gotta
having a
go with the
life?
program.
Huh?
Never.
Same
Why do
here,
this
man.
podcast?
Still working on
Same
that
here.
one, man.
Yeah. So yeah.
How do you think Harvey would have felt about the MCU?
I think he would have fucking hated it. He would have been just like he probably would have had the same speech after the Revenge of the Nerds. He would have been like,
Yeah.
"Look, this is fine entertainment, but you
Yeah,
know, it's not art. It's not art. It's commerce.
Too
That's what it
similar
is."
to a lot of conversations I've had on the internet with people all the time about
course.
any movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, time has shown the flaws in this movie so heavily, but it's also shown like what's great about it too.
What
And
flaws in this movie? Let's talk
what
about that.
I mean, the flaws is that Harvey Pekar is like a severely OCD guy with like an intense temper to the point to where he can't even talk most of the time because he's so fucking angry. Like the beginning of the movie is just him being angry about his fucking girlfriend. He never has one moment where he's like, God, I love my girlfriend. I actually care about her and I like being around her. No, every moment of him in the film is like, God, women. They're women.
In the moments he shows tenderness to his girlfriend, it's almost like because you calm me down. That sort of thing. Because you relax me and
Yeah,
I'm touch
God,
starved.
that was the worst thing that young men could pick up from this fucking film, and there's a
Ooh,
lot of
is-
films like it, you know.
Is that autobiographical?
You know, like that Crumb film, like actively skirts around him harassing women. You know,
Oh,
I'm sure
yeah.
there's fucking footage from all that shit where he's just being a shithead. You know, but it didn't get inserted into there.
That's what
'cause
you're
number
king
one,
of the nerds. You know, you're like the nerd at Comic-Con who's just like, oh, I can get cosplay girls.
Yeah, but
now 'cause
also
I have a booth.
there's a lack of media literacy among some younger folks, and they think that just because a character is acting this way in a movie means that the director and the people that wrote it also agree with that point of view.
Right.
True,
as if
true.
it
Like
can't be
Spielberg, why are you advocating for Amon Gut in Schindler's List, Ray Fiennes' character?
Yeah.
Boy who lived.
Well, let me ask you this: that flaw, is that a flaw in the movie, or is that just a flaw in Harvey?
I mean, that's the the flaw in the movie is that the film is so reverential to Harvey, and I guess that also equals to a flaw in Harvey as well. Like you can't separate those things on a certain level because he's always going to need such a certain amount of control in his life. And I think these little points where they break in with the reality of his friends and family being like, life isn't this gloomy for you. You have loved ones around you all the time. You
But
have
he
people
feels
who
like he needs that
but
to
he
be an
feels
artist.
like he needs that to be an
Yeah.
artist. That's right, and it's not like I mean I don't think any American Splendor movie with Harvey Pekar's involvement would be capable of truly accentuating how his life works because he's always going to have a certain OCD quality in it to where like yeah this is my movie and I'm the one who's writing it. I'm the one who's going to be starring in it on some level. And
Did he
if
write this?
I'm sure. No, well, actually,
Uh,
I don't think so. But at the same time, I'm sure if they had him involved, he had to be like, no, 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 this isn't me. This isn't what I would do. You know, like he'd be like that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure,
Like
but also
if
that
he's involved in this thing, he's always going to have like a certain amount of control over it. I feel now that I'm older.
But
you
by
know?
highlighting his involvement, you also highlight the fact that he might have control, and that control tarnishes the narrative. So you're calling attention to his involvement and his
Sure.
control, and thereby potentially criticizing it or having people leading people to form their own opinions and criticize it.
Yeah, and
Because I
that's
can
so-
see how you, as a young person, might have idealized somebody like this man as your tortured male artist. But at the same time, this movie deconstructs that so
which is
brutally.
why the
that-
framing
it-
of the narration is so important to this film.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it does. And I think definitely the people who were in charge of directing this, like I definitely think Danielle, the young girl they end up adopting, I'm pretty sure she had a big hand in shaping the narrative to make sure that it kind of shows the realities of her living as a little girl with this guy who's so edgy and so testy about things.
But also I liked it a lot because he says so many times, I had a vasectomy, fuck that, I don't want to have kids, and then he finally in his older years comes around to it. So that's
Right.
a nice bit of character.
No, because he is capable of that, even as much as, and we don't really get his childhood outside of one scene in the
I
beginning.
know,
which,
and that's
which is
another
also
thing.
that's the kid from Elf. I had to look it up after.
Oh, okay.
That's who plays him. I was
Same
like,
year that
"Who's-"
came out.
Yeah.
But also
Did-
that
Were you guys into that opening scene? Did that play for everybody?
it was fine.
in hindsight, once I figured out what the movie was about, because I didn't know, it makes sense. It's very much it's to hammer home the theme of like he is his own superhero, you know.
Yeah.
Although is that a fictionalized thing? Probably.
Oh yeah. But I will say though, I want to say about this film, it's something that makes me like want to be like upfront about who I am. Like, look, I've had lucky breaks. I've been on great podcasts. I've been in one or two bands that were great, even though they didn't play out. I know they were great because I have the fucking tapes. I can tell when what I'm doing is good. So I'm a janitor mostly for money. That's how I fucking survive most of the time. Like there's so many artists out there. How many can actually make a living sometimes?
Right.
That's another thing about like this movie too. Like I love that he's always upfront about the fact that he's trying to balance all these things too. He's trying to make a living doing something he loves while being stuck in this place that he doesn't really love. And if he does, even if he doesn't want to get out of it, it's still a matter of like, could he get out of it? He's been doing it so long.
Well, there's something to be said about having not an easier job, a simpler job that doesn't tax your mind as much and leaving you free for creative things.
That's the main reason why I'm a janitor, is because I can fucking like think. Like I don't have to like think about this job. When I go in, I don't have to give a shit. I don't have to like worry about anything. I just know what that job is and I do it. I'm not saying this just to brag. Like people in my company tell me that our floors at the store I work at look better than anything else, and I've earned the right to say that I'm one of the best employees in my fucking company. I earned that right.
Yeah, good.
And like, look, I don't have to ever worry about being sick with the damn thing. Like if I have a like messed up foot or something, I can still walk around and push a broom and walk behind the shitty little machine. It's not something I feel ashamed of necessarily. I just get tired of it because it's not what I wanted to do when I was a fucking child. I never wanted to clean the fucking floor and have people tell me, "Man, you sure made that floor shine." Like that doesn't make anything for me. That doesn't give me anything other than a basic survival. I had to tell this one guy the other day. He was like, "You gonna be ready for them to come in and do something?" No, I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. I'll be ready anyways because it's such a stupid job. Like I don't have to worry about it. Like, are you kidding me? Like I don't take pride in this thing. It's a job. Like it keeps me alive.
No, and I get that. I'm job hunting right now, and part of me's like, do I even want a quote unquote good job, or do I just want to like a job that pays well enough to live and I can do what I want?
Yeah, that's what I'm focused on right now with door dashing. I can choose my hours.
I want it. I don't have a car right now. That's a problem.
But I should be looking for better jobs, but right now it's paying the bills and I'm able to focus on the shit I want to focus on. So right now it's perfect for me. And is delivering food this badass thing? No, I don't give a fuck. Too many people are wage cucks. Too many people. No, but I mean, you know what I mean? Like
I know what you mean.
It's just like, dude, like so
that's American. That's American culture, and that's what it.
Like
and when you're driving around too, you don't have
work
to
so much.
necessarily worry.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm driving around so much, I can still think about my projects and stuff and write stuff down, which I do. But so many people work so much that they don't have time to do anything. So what's the point?
And it's not even the amount of hours worked. That's one reason I'm getting out of education, honestly, is you can't leave work at work. You were always thinking about like lesson plans or like what's coming up or blah, 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 meetings, like, and it was killing me. And I wasn't doing anything I wanted to do. I was just working, which I'm like, okay, well, that's what teachers do. And they also drink a lot. Fun fact, you figure that out talking to your coworkers. Teachers drink.
I want to say, I think movies like this kind of turned me into a workaholic too, because since I want to be an artist on some level, I'm just constantly.
You are an artist. No, don't say you want to be an artist. You are an artist, Robbie. Well, okay. I know we've known each other like 50 minutes, but you're an artist.
Well, thank you. I guess I can talk well enough to pretend to be one.
No, no. You
Well,
make
I mean,
things. You're an artist. You express
yeah.
yourself.
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of like, I'm sorry, I completely got off of my original point, but it's just a matter of like,
Workaholism.
yeah, like when I'm doing this, like I'm constantly thinking of it as work because I think like someday down the line, making this fucking sketch and learning how to do this is going to pay off into something more. So now I have to like find ways to make myself work around the idea of working, if you understand what I mean.
Right.
I
No.
can't think of work like anything I do as work. I have to
You have
think
to,
of
it
it
has
as
to be
like
play.
yes, it has
playful.
to be creativity, and I think that's a part of the problem with an artist like Harvey Pekar too, is that everything is play when he's actually doing it. Even his depression, even his moodiness, there's romanticization there. There's an intense like need to express something that is maybe melodramatic too, like maybe too ridiculous at times to be taken seriously. Like sometimes I read these comics, I'm just like, shut the fuck up, guy. This is just anxiety. This is just you being anxious. Like, who gives a shit that the girl on the plane won't give you peanuts anymore? I'm sorry. It's post 9/11. There's a peanut shortage. God damn it. Harvey.
Is that an effect of the war in Afghanistan? A peanut shortage?
It was hard times. The peanuts are short.
George Washington Carver rolling in his grave.
But because of this and his always coming back to his dead end job, that's why it brilliantly ends on his like retirement scene and how all of the people around him are happy for him, and it's very nice, joyous moments, cutting cake, and it just brings it all together into a nice bow.
And yeah, this is one of those scenes where like this is one of the only things in all of the world that has ever actually shown me like what having a legitimate family entails. Because when I grew up, my parents were already divorced. Mother died when I was 8. Dad is working a shitty, hard ass job that wears him down 10 hours a day, and he can't hardly think when he's done because of how hard the job is. So, yeah, it was hard growing up. And then, like, to watch this movie and to see this guy that, is definitely acting as something of a father surrogate for me in my head at that time, because I'm constantly looking for artistic people because I want to
Yeah.
be an artist as a teenager. I want to like go through these trials and tribulations. You I want to be a shitty middle class white dude, which I guess I haven't grown out of on a certain level. But like it showed me that you can have a family that loves you even with imperfections, even if you're not the person everyone wanted you to be, or you're not the person that your family thinks you're supposed to be. Yeah, this is such a it's hard to talk about this a little bit. Yeah, I'm not tearing up, but it's still a little hard to take all these memories and things that are flowing out of me going through this film and actually having to talk about it with someone, because I don't think I've ever had a conversation about the film with anyone. Like I don't
Sure,
no
man. That's really
nobody
cool.
I know has ever seen this film.
Okay.
We'll cut
Well,
them
that's
out of your life.
Yeah.
No, but
That's
we're
why,
really jokes
that's-
aside. We're glad you're here
This is
to.
why I
about it.
wanted to do this. These bring random people on from different walks of life. I think it's really cool to hear your perspective on this film. So I'm glad you came on, man.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you about this, especially because this has been on my list for a while too to watch. And I just
Hey,
putting it
wonderful.
back, so
I never heard of it somehow. I mean, it sounded vaguely familiar. I don't know. I definitely appreciate it more after talking about it. I watched it earlier today, so that's part of the problem, maybe. But it's because I never felt entirely emotionally invested. But that's because I think there is that distancing mechanism with the documentary feel. It's a very intellectual film in a way, so it's something you have to chew on. It's not it's not a rom-com where he gets the girl at the end and it's feel good.
Yeah.
It's not going to connect you in that way, but
This
it's going to
is
connect you in a deeper way, a less commercial and more
Yeah.
artistic way.
This
I wanted to troll you, Robbie, and confuse American Psycho with American Splendor. Talk about that all podcast, but I was like, it's my first time talking to this dude. I don't know if he'd appreciate that.
No, I wouldn't. Honestly, I wouldn't.
But, yeah, that scene where Harvey was killing people with the axe was really
Man, I really hated Harvey's business card, man. It was pissing me off.
Yeah,
let's see
did
Paul
we
Allen's
get the
comic
right
book.
movie?
Huh?
Confuse the movies together.
Oh yeah. Well, anyway, anything else we want to talk about with this movie? I feel like we wrapped it up pretty well.
yeah, I think we said most of what we needed to say. Leave a comment below if there's anything.
Do you want to plug anything, Robbie?
Hell yeah, I want to plug something. I got my main podcast right now, Conversations with Robbie Sherman. That's getting new episodes out right now. I just put out an episode about Clerks 2.
Oh, okay,
Chris
cool.
yeah,
Sick.
Chris Revel and Chuck Staten from the Chuck and Brad podcast. He also works with Kevin Smith and the
Cool, man.
Smodcast crew. Yeah, it's I really had a good time talking about that film. That was a film I realized after we got done, I appreciated this so much more now that I'm 29, going
Yeah.
into my 30s, than I did when I was a fucking 14-year-old
Sure.
watching these like donkey jokes, you know.
Yeah. And also,
Sexy stud.
the whole time we were talking about this, I was thinking of Chasing Amy, because that's about other comic book artists.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
It's
man, that
completely
is
different,
such a
but-
90s like white boy lesbian movie.
Oh, it is so.
Yeah.
Oh man, I used to
So
watch that
I showed
fucking
it to a
thing
queer
constantly.
woman once, and then I was like cringing the whole time. I'm like, why did I?
No,
watch
dude, I
this?
showed it to my sister, who also likes chicks and is also much younger and is Gen Z, and she thought it held up. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's cool. And here, that's part of its charm, though.
Well, also, yeah, you have to just
We're
accept
Kevin
it's
Smith fans here.
90s slant. It's not a big deal.
My
Just
favorite
what it
Kevin
is.
Smith is Cop Out.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
Oh
man, I guess you're really upset about all the Bruce Willis news.
Oh yeah, I
lately.
was really excited for Cop Out too.
man.
Yeah, they had that on the slate, but they took it right off.
Yeah.
Fucking shame.
Fucking shame, man.
I bet Bruce Willis could do that with a face.
Now all we're getting is Clerks 3. God damn it. We could have had Cop Out 2 instead of Clerks 3, everybody. What the fuck is happening in the world?
Well,
It's the government, man. Tracy Morgan got in that car wreck, and now Bruce Willis has got aphasia. Yeah, it's
they have
it's
it
the
out for
government.
Cop Out, dude.
dude, man. They don't want
Kevin
him to
Smith
come.
had a heart attack, but he survived.
Yeah,
telling
Cop Out
you,
2 is
dude.
about the deep state. It's
There's a.
an expose. Snowden's writing it.
Oh, have you guys tried to watch that cartoon Kevin Smith, Jane Silent Bob thing?
The Clerks
Like
animated?
the-
No.
the
It's like
reboot,
a
or
full-on
not the
cartoon
movie.
movie.
Yeah. It's not,
No.
it's not the best.
No, it's not. It's not anywhere close to the best. It's several tiers below the best. I would guess.
Well, hell yeah.
I also want to mention I got the Freakazoid rewatch podcast I'm putting out soon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we are doing the first recording for that tomorrow.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm going to have Mr. Ray and Trent from A Nightmare on Fear Street on there. We're going to talk about episode 4. It's just scheduling. I'm going to talk about episode 1 eventually. Just hold your horses, everybody. Don't worry. I'll
That's
get
cool,
it
man.
out.
No, Freakazoid's an interesting one because that's a very like 90s
Oh my God.
depiction of the internet.
It's the
It's
shit.
look.
good.
There's
I
a
remember it.
scene where you have an incredible Bruce Timm outlay of the internet portrayed as a series of flashing cables and nodules, and Freakazoid is running around it and transversing through it, and you don't see one drop of pornography throughout the World Wide Web, and I was just like blown away by it. There was no even like look. There wasn't even like a girl in a bikini signifying pornography.
That's pretty impressive.
I am impressed by it, honestly. As an adult now, after not having watched it for probably 15 years, the animation is stellar. The voice acting is so good. Even the real obscure stuff is at least like enough to smile at. It's not bad really ever.
Sure.
Like I haven't found anything that's really bad about it. And yeah, I'm fucking happy to be doing this. Thank you so much for having me on, guys. I'm sure you're
man.
wanting to get the hell out of here.
Hey,
Yeah,
we
man. Thanks for
appreciate you
coming
coming
on.
by for sure.
Good cast.
Thank you.
much.
Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next episode.